you think you may have Marfan syndrome? Can you tell me why you think that you may have it?
Yeah, I've struggled with it for like most of my life. I have asthma, and sometimes like I get lightheaded and, my heart gets all weird. And recently I was talking to a friend of mine who had learned about Marfan syndrome in her biochemistry class, and she was shared that the symptoms I had actually aligned with Marfan syndrome. So she's been nagging me to come get it checked out.
Yeah, well, I actually just looked at your chart, and obviously you're very tall and you are
I
nearsighted,
am 6'8". Yes, I am.
which and you're nearsighted, so both of those are very characteristic of Marfan syndrome. By any chance, do you have flexible joints or flat feet?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been really flexible, which helped me out a lot when I was in gymnastics when I was a kid. But the heart problems always really messed me up in sports.
Yeah, yeah. Well, is there any history of Marfan syndrome or any of the symptoms that we've discussed associated with it in your family at all?
No, no one in my whole family is actually under 6 feet tall, and none of them need to wear glasses, or none of them also have heart problems. So,
All right. Well, you may just be within the 25% of people who have Marfan syndrome that don't inherit it from their parents, but instead develop their own mutations as a zygote. But before I officially diagnose you, we're going to run some tests, including some CAT scans and genetic tests, just to make sure. And I'll have you go to the lab today to get some blood work done, and we'll meet in about 2 weeks to talk about the results.
okay, all right, thank you.
Hey, Sydney.
Yep,
Have
welcome
a good day,
back.
Sydney.
Hey, this is my friend Lauren over here. She's actually the person who informed me about Marfan syndrome.
Yeah, hi. We've been friends for a long time, and I didn't want to scare her or anything. But I thought it would be important for her to know if she did have something like Marfan syndrome.
Well, you definitely did the right thing by pointing her in the right direction. I've looked over your test results, Sydney, and you were definitely right. The results are conclusive that you have Marfan syndrome.
Well, that's good to know. I mean, now I have an explanation for everything. Um, so what does that mean moving forward?
So for now, we're going to put limits on physical activity just to make sure that your heart is strong enough and your asthma doesn't flare up, because emphysema and enlarged aortas are two of the most severe symptoms, and we want to make sure that you are as healthy and stable as possible. Luckily, it doesn't look like you have scoliosis, which is also a very common symptom in patients who have Marfan syndrome. I'll have you come in more frequently just so that we can monitor your symptoms as well.
And what would happen if my symptoms do worsen?
In that scenario, many things can happen depending on which symptoms worsen. There are many treatment options, including surgery to replace the aortic valve. However, this is only something that would happen in extreme circumstances. Other than that, I recommend taking ibuprofen whenever you have joint pain. And if over-the-counter medication doesn't help, I can prescribe something stronger like painkillers, but we're probably not going to get to that point. I can also prescribe you some medication called atenolol. It's a beta blocker, which means that it slows your heart rate, which will decrease the dilation of your aorta that is occurring due to the buildup of a transforming growth factor beta protein.
What do you mean by the buildup of the whatchamacallit
Transforming
protein?
growth factor beta protein. We also call it the TFG beta protein. Basically, there was a mutation in your DNA affecting the protein fibrillin 1. So this makes it so that it can't bind to itself to create what we call microfibrils. Microfibrils allow the skin, ligaments, and blood vessels to stretch. So without the formation of these, the TGFB proteins remain active and begin to build up in the tissues, decreasing the elasticity of the tissues. This is why you have joint problems and have the height that you do.
What exactly kind of mutation are you talking about?
Well, scientists have identified over 1,300 fibrillin 1 gene mutations that cause Marfan syndrome. It can be a missense or a nonsense mutation, and researchers have found that it mainly affects the cysteine residues in the fibrillin 1 protein.
Okay, so like I'm such a science person, and so I'm gonna try to explain it and tell me if I'm right. Okay,
Okay.
so basically what's happening is that's why the fibrillin 1 can't bind it to itself to make the microfibrils that bind to the TGF beta protein, because a change in the structure results in a change in the function. And if you don't have the cysteine residues, then the disulfide bonds can't form and the structure changes.
Exactly.
Okay.
I like your funny words, Magic Man.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, thank you. I'm glad that I will still be able to do the things I love, like Quidditch. I just have to be more careful.
Yeah, just out of curiosity and to be as safe as possible, can you give us some more information on the genetics behind Marfan syndrome?
Actually, yes, I'd love to.
And now we'll help you out with the song.
I've got
Marfan syndrome.
Mutations occurring
with
with
my
my
FBN1.
Nonsense or nonsense, the
Cysteine
said
said
goodbye. Disulfide bonds are now out of sight. Microfibrils can't polymerize. Disulfide bonds are really important in keeping your connective tissues together, and they're what keep your heart super strong. So when they disappear, a lot of funky things can happen, like
When you run, you start to fall, then you've got a weak aortic wall.
thanks to weak connective tissues. When you speak, you can't breathe over flexible joints and flat feet and a smile filled with crowded teeth. And I know this
it's
ain't
not your
my
parents' fault.
It
It's a
was a mutation when I was a zygote. Not only can't I dance, it's hard to find good pants. It's a new FBN1 allele. The cysteine changed and broke the deal. This is what we reveal today.
Good news.
But I won't die.
Come on, kids.
Let's all sing it.
I got Marfan syndrome.
Mutations occurring
In my FBN1.
No sense or nonsense, cysteine said goodbye. Disulfide bonds are now out of sight.
Microfibrils can't polymerize.